All right, guys. So we're finally getting the return of Tony Ferguson after all of these personal issues outside the octagon. Now, I, for one, am elated to see Tony Ferguson coming back in the octagon and fighting Cowboy Cerrone of all people, which we all know is going to be an incredible fight. In all honesty, I'm just happy to see Tony Ferguson and his family on the other side of all this drama that they kind of encountered throughout the past couple months. Now, there were some pretty crazy things going on. It seemed Tony Ferguson was throwing holy water. He was seeing things and hearing things in the walls. He thought his son was the second coming of Jesus Christ and that he was Jesus Christ. I mean, there was a lot of mental stuff going on with Tony Ferguson that I'm sure we were all worried about. I know I made a video about it right when all this stuff started happening, and luckily things seem to have kind of died off. Now, I truly hope that the family life and the situation at home has been taken care of as well. But legally, I can tell you that all the charges for the temporary restraining order has been dropped. There's no charges in court. Tony Ferguson never went to jail, never had to deal with any kind of probation, nothing like that. So that's all good news. And from what we know anyway, throughout this whole process, Tony Ferguson has been getting the help he needs, and he and his family have been going to these appointments and these therapy sessions to kind of get past all this. And I couldn't be more happier for the guy and his family and his kids. I mean, it's a happy thing to see someone come out on the other side of this, because as we all know, and maybe not for personal reasons, but as we all know, mental things are very hard to overcome, especially things like CTE and things associated with Tony Ferguson getting hit in the head every single day for the majority of his life. But regardless, moving past the whole personal issues with Tony, I want to get into this fight with him and Cowboy Cerrone. Now, normally in any other situation, they're fighting at UFC 238. I would say Tony Ferguson would not easily win this fight, because we all know Cowboy Cerrone and how dangerous he is in any fight with any person. But I would have to give it to Tony Ferguson, probably like a plus 175 favorite. But since he's coming back on the other side of all these personal issues, even though he's on an 11 fight winning streak, and every time the man steps in the octagon, we all know we're getting a great show, and we're all pretty confident that Tony Ferguson's going to be able to handle himself. Now, there's the saga with Khabib that we never really got to see, and a lot of people say that would be the litmus test to see how good Tony Ferguson really is. But judging by his 10th planet jiu-jitsu and his unorthodox striking, the man has a chance in any fight, and so does Cowboy Cerrone. Cowboy is one of those veterans that as soon as he steps out of the octagon and lays his gloves down, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, period. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, regardless if he ever touches a belt or not. But Cowboy Cerrone has looked incredible ever since his son Danger has come into the picture. Ever since that little boy has been born, Cowboy Cerrone is on a completely different level. We saw him demolish Alex Hernandez, who was a pretty big up-and-coming prospect. That fight, truly, a lot of people kind of counted Cowboy out of that fight. Then we saw what he did to Ally Quinta, who we all know is an animal and has truly started making a name for himself. Donald Cerrone shut that down quickly. And we all saw what he did to Mike Perry with that armbar. So Cowboy Cerrone has just been on a completely different level than we've ever seen him before, and that's scary to say. Cowboy Cerrone is truly dangerous against anyone right now. I wouldn't count him out against any fighter he steps in the ring with. That being said, Tony Ferguson has a very unorthodox fighting style. Cowboy Cerrone seems to do well with more technical fighters when he knows what they're going to do and he can kind of game plan how he always does, right? At the BMF Ranch, he has his own training sessions and his own way to do his training camps that train him for guys that are specialists in striking or specialists in jiu-jitsu. Tony Ferguson is truly a utility fighter and can take it anywhere, anytime. He can fight standing up, on his back, on his stomach, with you on his back. I mean, the man is truly a dangerous fighter from any position. So it's going to be an amazing fight to watch at UFC 238. They beefed this card up a ton. Brett Okamoto said it was due to the lack of fights on the 238 card, and I tend to agree there, but just simply seeing Tony Ferguson back in the octagon after all of this drama outside the ring is going to be so satisfying for me and anyone who's even a little bit of a fan of Tony Ferguson. You have to at least respect what he does, whether it be whether outside of the ring or not. Inside the ring, the man is a monster and he deserves his respect, and I'm happy to see him back. I think everyone is, and I do truly think that whole situation may have been blown a little out of proportion. Nonetheless, guys, I'll definitely keep you updated if there's any updates to this fight. If anything happens to Tony Ferguson, we all know he's a bit injury prone at times because the way he trains is just animalistic. He's like a beast in his training. But nonetheless, guys, thanks so much for the support lately. If you made it to the end of the video, you're like the 15% of people who don't have the attention span of an ant, so I appreciate that a ton. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, like, do all that stuff. Thanks again for all the support, and we'll catch you next time.